Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody out there in WLUW listener land and live from the Heartland listener land. This is Michael James. I'm here with my cohort Katy Hogan this morning, and our buddy Tom Clark is taking a break. We hope you're having a good time up there with his men's club, having a great discussion, and we are here for another edition of Live from the Heartland.
Welcome, everybody. We've got great guests today. We've got the recyclery.
Bicycle Co-op.
The recyclery right here from Rogers Park. I was wondering, it is a co-op, right? Collective, the Recycling Collective. That's great. And we also have our good friend and hardworking lawyer for the people, Flint Taylor, to catch us up on all the things that he keeps us caught up on. And we also have had an incredible week. Today is September 30th, 2017. Last day to get in those all-important political donations.
This is the last day for you to get all your stuff out of your old apartment, too. You've been having a big move. Katie's, I want to just say, it's wonderful having Katy here, all chipper and cheery after she's been lugging all kind of historical files and writings and photographs and pictures and furniture up to her new crib.
Yeah, why do we have so much stuff? Is that?
I don't know. Well, you're the example of cleaning it up.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
Well,
now we have stuff that you gave to my kids over at my house, adding to more stuff. And
I have to talk to you about that.
I have to pick up a couple more things.
All right, these are all first world problems of the nth degree, given Puerto Rico is suffering greatly right now, mightily, and if you haven't, there was a great little benefit Friday night right up the street here for both Cuba and
Mexico.
Oh, it was Cuba and Mexico, not even.
No, not yet. It was planned before the Puerto Rican.
Now, I did not hear what the mayor said. The mayor of San Juan said, but you told me, Michael, she was.
She was very emotional. She was obviously tired. She was saying, "Our people are dying. Anyone listen? I'm sorry to be doing this. I'm begging for help." She really just flew in the face, so to speak, of Trump's, throwing out how great things were going and how they were doing a great job. And
he just lies through his teeth.
He certainly
does.
He
just lies through his teeth. He opens his mouth and it's a lie. It's a terrible thing.
Well, it is.
On the other hand,
someone should have washed his mouth out with soap a long time ago.
We actually know he's lying. I mean, we've had people lying to us before. This guy just. Do you know what is the best way to help out San Juan right now in Puerto Rico?
I'm not sure, but they do say that the roads are kind of clear, but there's so many different agencies involved, and that a lot of there's been this claim that they don't have the drivers to move the stuff throughout the island. Some of that is because the drivers are already looking for their own families and dealing with stuff in their locales. It's
no power, no water. They're hungry. They're thirsty. It's incredible. And that's part of America, folks.
They do have a 3-star general showing up, or did show up, who's supposedly going to coordinate things, but the criticism a lot is that they should have been prepared for this. They should have known it was going to happen and what they would do.
Yeah.
The excuse is that it's in an island, but I recall that I think Puerto Rico has a very large harbor, and it has, there's a lot of American influence there. And as someone pointed out, they can go into the desert and create whole towns for people, and why haven't they done that here in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, exactly.
So we got 3.5 million people living on the island, and there's probably an equal number of Puerto Ricans in the States, maybe many more. And this will have all kind of ramifications down the line, but the key right now is getting them back on track, getting them up and running, getting people some water and some food and medicine.
Yeah.
That's when they talk about people dying, part of it is the number of people who need dialysis or other, ongoing serious technology-enhanced medications and treatment, and that's not happening.
Well, we're thinking of all of our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico, and we wish you well. We wish you the best in this terrible situation. Let's see, what else happened this week? We had. Thank God, the HHS secretary resigned. Is this the guy, Health and Human Services? This is the guy whose wife tweeted all the costs of her wardrobe as she got on a jet? Is that the same one?
I'm not sure. I'm getting a little confused with all the nefarious stuff going on over there. I'm not sure how to keep track of it all, plus scores and, all the things in your life.
It was based on him blowing a lot of cash, taxpayer money, on his own personal needs. I got a notice from the Sierra Club last night that so should Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke, a guy famous for claiming that he had 30% of the folks in his shop don't honor the flag. Basically calling 30% of the civil servants in the Interior Department of Interior as traitors. This is the way these people talk. We shouldn't let them get away with it. The other guy that Sierra Club is urging people to sign their petition, which I urge you to go to Sierra Club's website and sign the petition to get both Zinke and this EPA administrator, Scott Pruitt. They got to go. They're wasting close to $1 million in taxpayer money, and they've been heading on themselves, on their own stuff. This guy,
the worst thing is though what they're doing to try to chip back at all the Obama advancements we made in these areas. And it is a good thing that the civil service and people, there's many holdovers from the last administration, the Obama administration, and I think that's probably true throughout the government. And there's an awful lot of people who maybe are slowing down the ill effects of the Trump administration right now.
Well, yeah, let's hope so. But I think the only thing that we actually can get them on is not their policy,
I understand.
but doing as you put it, nefarious,
That word just came out of my mouth.
It's a good one.
I'm going to use it all day.
All right, so let's see this character Roy Moore won in Alabama. What does that indicate, Michael?
Well, they're talking about it's just a new model for the Republicans. There's kind of a war going on now between the Bannonites and the so-called establishment Republicans.
Whatever that is.
Roy Moore had popped up in our news feeds years back. A lot of it is because he was the head of the Alabama Supreme Court, and in the course of being head of the Alabama Supreme Court, he got hit down a couple times around the Ten Commandments on the lawn and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And he totally has defied the Constitution. And so we'll see. The Republicans are desperate for a win. They're desperate to keep any votes they currently have. So now they're back in this little kind of racist, Nazi, fascist, whatever you care to call him. At least he's a guy who has been reprimanded twice by the Supreme Court. And now he's going to be a senator, gets to vote on, things that are affecting all of our lives.
Increíble. Speaking of racism, America. The U.S. Air Force Academy chief delivered a stirring speech yesterday on the or 2 days ago, I forget which, telling racists to get out, quote unquote, to get out.
Yeah, somebody had taken to writing, telling African American members of the
to go home,
to get out, go home, and he called.
He said, if you can't treat someone from another race or a different color skin with dignity and respect, then you need to get out.
He said it over and over and over, and then he had everyone turn on their phones to record it or to videotape him saying it.
Yeah.
And, on one level, why do we root for the Air Force, who have bombed, we're watching the Vietnam series on TV, we're seeing the Air Force in action. On the other hand, it is in a democracy, or at least in a fair deal kind of a country, you want a military force that is principled, and we, through the military, we have seen a lot of advances for African Americans and other non-whites, and I think it's great that this guy came out and said these things.
Well, interesting, all that stuff you just said. I think when we have really reached something that we're
Set
hoping
me straight, Kate.
It's just that our military, who have we've sunk a lot of money into creating this military. It would be great to see that sooner or later the military would be seen as a force for good, that would only come into places when people need water and food and rescuing, or when people need to be pulled out of harm's way from someone else, as opposed to going in and doing some of the things that we are being reminded of on the Vietnam series. Are you watching it, Michael?
I did watch the Vietnam series. I really drug my feet about it because it's the last week and the exciting young White Sox have been playing some good games. So I kept telling my lovely wife Paige that, hey, I'm watching the White Sox. But I found myself as soon as
you did tell your lovely wife Paige that, didn't you?
I did a couple of times, but because she wanted to keep watching it with me. But I did watch it almost every night. I would, as soon as the commercial came on, I would flip over to the Vietnam series.
Okay, we got it. We were watching the
yeah.
commercials.
No, I stayed there.
Okay.
I watched less of the Sox games. And they got beat pretty bad yesterday. But I tell you, it's pretty inspiring. And I've been putting up critiques of it in advance from various leftist comrades from the old days who had seen it in full already, and talking about certainly the first installment talked about well-meaning men starting the war, forgetting the Ellsberg papers that come up later and all of the kind of premeditated, the backing of the French at Dien Bien Phu, those kind of things. So I put up all these criticisms, but I actually find it very educational. And as Barry Romo, who was a guest on the Klonsky Brothers Hitting Left show yesterday on another station, on Lumpen Radio, he is a military vet. He's in the movie throwing back his medals. He was a leader of VVAW, and he basically praised it. You know, I think said too there were criticisms to be made about it, but he had never seen the North Vietnamese portrayed so sympathetically.
Yeah.
And the Viet Cong or the National Liberation Front. And you know, for me, a political guy back in the day when we were, you know, supporting the Vietnamese struggle and we were rooting for the GIs to frag and to give up the fight, so to speak, I found the internal dynamics of the North Vietnamese and the National Liberation Front and the footage around that and the rebuilding of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the role of women, and the casualties suffered by the Vietnamese, you know, all very informative and in some ways inspiring.
It is informative. I think it's informative to see any of the Vietnamese people speaking for what the American war, as they call it, meant in their lives. We never saw that in the course of all of the war. We never were exposed to the point of view of the people on the ground.
One of the things that, I know I teach this class at DePaul called Activists and Activism since 1960, and I've got 28 students, and they are, you know, reading about the Black Panther Party, enjoying community union, rising up angry. But when I asked them, and they're, you know, they're real serious about it, and they chose the course because they were interested. But none of them watch TV. I mean, they're not watching that. And in a lot of ways, I think that despite my the critiques from progressive folks on the left, I think it's real important that people see this, that they really get a sense of what went on and how deep it was and how the ramifications of that war are with us today. I mean, really big time. We still have the split from back then ongoing today. Enough of that, huh?
Well, there's not enough to say about that actually, but we're going to move on because we've got great guests sitting in front of us. What about one thing? We want to congratulate the Cubs fans. They made it in. Congratulations! You got national division champs to go to the playoffs. So excellent. One other. Betsy DeVos was greeted with.
You know, I'm grabbing this stuff from the Guardian, the New York Times this morning. I'm looking at AOL, etc. And Betsy DeVos, who I always call Nancy for some reason.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Well, she's our Secretary of Education. She's a billionaire. Her family are involved in various nefarious military and political activities. She is our Secretary of Education. Got really let in without serious challenges. And she went to Harvard yesterday to push charter schools. And the entire audience was totally silent. Then one person would get up with a sign, another person, security would come, and then more people would get up. And it was just portrayed as like a pretty good challenge, let's just say, to her.
You know, I love all the varieties of protests that we're seeing, and something that hashtag Take a Knee caught my eye. Patriot protest is a patriotic American tradition. Stifling dissent is not. So let's talk about Colin Kaepernick again and Aaron Rodgers. Are they on the Sports Illustrated cover, did you say?
Colin Kaepernick is not on the Sports Illustrated cover.
Oh, I
And
didn't think
that's,
so.
I mean, there's people raising that. What's the deal? I mean,
Really?
this is what it was about.
Right.
It wasn't about the flag, it was about him protesting police injustice.
Totally.
And not only is he not on the cover, but you've got Seth Curry, or whatever, Curry, what's his
Yeah.
name?
I don't know his first name.
From the
Seth.
Warriors.
Okay.
He is in the middle, but he's got his arms locked with Roger Goodell, of the head of the National Football League, and he was irked by that he got put next to him. And Goodell, who is
Who put
now
him there?
going with the players, actually Megacy, who's been a guest on the show, played in the NFL and was a member of the union for years, an organizer. He pointed out that Goodell's father had been kind of one of those liberal Republicans and good on race issues, and his son hadn't been too good until the last few days.
I think that one of the things that happens with this, particularly with the sports world entering into a political conversation, is that exact thing. You've got people who you would assume to be something else, having some kind of consciousness about racism, having some kind of consciousness about our right to protest, and that's a welcome sign to
Well,
see
as you
that.
and I know, there have always been progressive athletes. We're both involved in Athletes United for Peace, which is mainly older jocks with a progressive bent. But there have always been people speaking up, certainly from the black community, certainly from Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, I mean, just the list is endless. And, there was the kind of stereotype that athletes are kind of like dumb jocks, or they're real right-wing or conservative. It's hardly true anymore.
It's hardly ever true.
There are just athletes, and I think this is a good thing. Why Trump chose this, and I assume he chose it because he was being challenged on a million other fronts to shore up his so-called base. We keep hearing that. Actually, I'm waiting to see if the base really holds for him. I think there's a lot of people who probably are getting a little tired of him.
Your lips to somebody's ears, Michael.
Anyhow, so back on the football front and other sports, let us say that all over the country people are taking the knee. All over the country people are pointing out it's really about police brutality. And here locally, Evanston Township High School, when playing New Trier, and I don't know what's with the New Trier kids and their coaches, but the entire Evanston volleyball team, and then the football team, the cheerleaders, and the band all took the knee before that game, and that was a big thing. Power to these young athletes. and
ETHS, you
fans
rock.
and band members and cheerleaders for speaking up for justice and human rights.
Right on, right on, right on. Anything else
Now
you
we
want to
got you
say?
going, Katy.
Anything else? Oh, today is your photo show closing at Adventureland, 1513 North Western,
Yes, it is.
Western Avenue. I love that little gallery.
It's a nice little gallery, and I got to say it's a pretty nice show. It's called The Americas, Outskirts and Back Streets, and I like to think my photos capture something unique about a place or an event. For me, all these things evoke certain feelings and questions, connections, as I remember the experience I encountered. Each one conveys a little bit of what went into shaping me. I've traveled North America, Canada, Mexico, Cuba, Nicaragua, Costa Rica. Many times I've had a camera with me, and I have these moments of sudden engagement where I grab a picture. And I'm really happy to be sharing them with you and other people who show up today. Each photo takes me to a place with a view, sometimes a smell, often a feeling, always a memory. So if you come out today, 1513 Northwestern Adventureland Gallery, that's Tony Fitzpatrick's place, his kid Max runs it. I'll be there from 1 to 6 before I pack it all up and bring it back to Rogers Park for another future.
It's a lovely show, Michael. I hope everybody gets a chance to see it.